Certainly, one of the goal, their first ever World Cup goal, comes as a result of them not being as afraid of Germany, right, and trying to push forward and taking a chance. They had a couple more opportunities where, obviously, had they been more clinical, would have at least gotten a few more goals on the board and wouldn't be so um, such a big disadvantage going forward with goal difference. But we'll see. Maybe Germany will make have similar results against the other teams in the group. But again, it just goes back to Germany's so efficient. I know they didn't make all their chances, but they, again, a conviction. All the talk in Germany about doubts on this team. No, they went out and tried to answer as many of those doubts as they could. Um, and certainly a level above anything Curacao has ever faced. So you could see, that
It
sort of
was.
level. They weren't used to it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to keep up with the Germany. You slip, or not careless, but you put your guard down for a few seconds, and they're lethal, and they'll put
Oh
it
yeah.
away. And
And
I think it just gets tiring as the game goes on.
the big teams, and I mean the big teams, the Englands, the Frances, the Spains of the world punish you. That's a word I like to use. If you're not at your very best, and it's not only on the technical side, but it's also on the concentration side. It's a standard, it's a consistency that we're going to see. The Argentinas of the world. Those are teams that know exactly how to pounce. I like that word as well. But Victor, let's talk quickly before we focus on Houston. The other match also that took place today, Ivory Coast and Ecuador, and a surprise here from what I've been watching here, Ecuador turning out in Philadelphia. Many opportunities. I think Ecuador should have been up 3-0 at some point, and Ivory Coast finding a way to get the 3 points in the 90th. So that speaks a lot about how you've got to put your chances away.
Yeah, and again, I still wouldn't put Curacao away. We'll see. I mean, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll fold against these teams, but I would still give them a chance against either of these to make the group a little bit more interesting. We'll see what that turns out. But look, I think we always knew Germany was going to be the top of the group here,
Sure.
and everything else is kind of there for the taking. So, but again, did we see a future world champion in Germany here, a future world champion campaign? I think a lot of people might be hoping for it if they saw him. But yeah, don't listen. We talked about yesterday with Australia. At these Ivory Coast, Ecuador. Don't put in. Don't overlook any of these teams. Scotland. Yeah, and certainly again, that's the World Cup. That's the passion. That's the nerves, the pressure. There's all these different things. The culture, the patriotism. Everything just mixes to make just a perfect storm. Some players are up for it, others aren't, and that's what makes this so unpredictable, so interesting, and such a so much drama.
Yeah, drama and a mystery in many ways. So we've been talking a little bit about Group E, and we'll dive deeper into the Germany and Curacao match held in Houston today. Let's talk a little bit also about Group F, the second match of the evening, wrapping up today. Sweden 5-1 over Tunisia. We talked about the Netherlands and Japan. That match up in Arlington, technically Dallas. We'll call it Dallas Stadium, AT&T. We know what stadium that is. Any comments, Victor, about these four teams? Sweden, again, by scoring 5, again, the goal differential. And I think the toughest match in my mind was the Netherlands-Japan. So there's opportunities here, but Sweden can't be discounted now with 3 points.
Like absolutely, and that's why we said the Netherlands Sweden matchup in Houston might be the most competitive out of the 7 match, or at least out of the group stage matches in Houston, might be the closest, and we'll see if that ends up being true. To where don't overlook Sweden, right? I'll go back to the other game that the fact that they beat Tunisia by such a margin. To me, that was more lopsided than what Curacao and Germany had, right? I think it's a little bit also take into account who Germany is. But we'll see. We'll see how this group turns out. Yeah, Sweden getting it done in Monterrey, and just 5 goals. That, I mean, you're off to a great start, especially taking advantage of what happened with the Netherlands, Japan. which I'm sure we'll get here in a little bit. But listen, this makes it completely interesting with Sweden now having a bit of the upper hand against the Netherlands when they face off here on Saturday.
Victor, when you would talk of and I'm going to say this with all due respect, countries like Tunisia, countries like Curacao, and we're looking at the lopsided scores, if you see it, is it now more of a moral victory, or is it still with two matches? I've learned a lot from this first match. Let's take this now and do something with it tactically, emotionally. It's tough. You could see Curacao with every goal that was added beyond the third that, okay, this may be not our day, but what can we rescue? And the commentary I heard both in English and Spanish was complimentary to this still being a historic opportunity for Curacao, the first goal ever as a country in the World Cup. And you start building a history. They're certainly not favorites to get out of the group or win the World Cup. Is that the context we give teams such as Curacao and Tunisia? Or is it, hey, maybe there's something we learned here. We've got a couple of days to prepare to realistically pick up points and see maybe de panzanzo, like you say in Spanish, get in there maybe as a third in the group?
Yeah, well, again, because a traditional World Cup, Curacao we consider them eliminated already. But the fact that you can get in as a third place now,
Right.
again, the goal difference works against them a little bit. Um, but we'll see if they can pick up a victory here against one of these other teams. I mean, that throws that's certainly what they would need to kind of turn this around. And I think it is moral victory for Curacao just because you got to take into context their history.
Yeah.
This is first ever World Cup. This is a national team program that has been building up here for probably about 10 years here. We were talking, in the mix zone with after the game with Eloy Room, where it was like, yeah, look, in 2015, I'm one of the first players that kind of decided, hey, I'm playing for Curacao, and it's kind of that first wave. And they got a couple of Gold Cups under their belt. They have some history here in Houston. Eloy Room had a night where he had double-digit saves. I believe it was a game against Honduras. Obviously, Germany here is a different animal, right? Where in this case, he allows 7 goals, but again, this is a Curacao that I would say this is the first time they've ever faced an opponent. It was certainly in a setting like this in a World Cup match.
Right.
So I think getting that first one out of the way, yeah, absolutely good test. You've kind of tested your limits even further. And I think you can take a lot of positives from that, saying, hey, listen, erase the scoreline. If we put the effort we put in against Germany, we should be able to do something against Ecuador and do something against the Ivory Coast. Why not? And take a victory. And we'll see if they can do that together. Like I said, this isn't a bunch of mechanics. This isn't and teachers and school bus drivers and taxi drivers. No, these are professional players that,
yeah.
most of them in the Netherlands that have been for family ties or what other reasons are playing for Curacao, dual nationals. So absolutely, I give them a chance. And Tunisia, why? Everybody has a bad game. Argentina had a loss to start their World Cup championship campaign in Qatar, and they were able to turn it around. So I mean, again, that's the unpredictability of the World Cup, and we know there's going to be surprises, and we're looking forward to them as well.
I like the why not attitude. Friends, if you're just joining us, we are live here at Deportes Nation, Soccer Texas. Alex Parra with me, in the shot below me a little bit, Don Victor Araiza. And we also wanted to mention, I guess, a third member for now, Victor, of our team. Talk about Katie Umaña, who was there in the trenches today at Houston Stadium. We're proud of her. Photographer extraordinaire. We'll be seeing some of her work here in just a couple of seconds. But Katie was there working hard and being part of the festival that is the first match in Houston's World Cup history.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see some of her pictures, and obviously she's been documenting a lot of the games in Houston, and this had to be another one. And I think again, Katie and a bunch of other of our fellow, Houston journalists and photojournalists, a big moment for cover a World Cup, and then but also because of the ties to Houston, cover the first ever World Cup match here in Houston. Again, what a matchup that we got to get four-time winners Germany, and a story like Curacao. Um, again, and 8 goals again. So a lot of action. I think there was a vibrant stadium, a lot of good things. I believe a lot of good comments from the tourists out of town. It wasn't all Germans and people from Curacao. There was sprinkled in there different types of jerseys, a lot of Mexican jerseys, flags, a couple Guatemalan flags, Honduras. So I think again, residents in Houston taking the opportunity to enjoy a World Cup game in your own city.
Victor,
It was a celebration of soccer, like it's been called.
absolutely. Take us behind the scenes, Victor. How was the access relative to getting to the stadium? It depends. If you get there early, like many journalists do, there's access. If you start getting there maybe 2 hours before kickoff, so that would have been 10 a.m., it started getting a little bit crowded. There was some rain. The security measures, something different than a normal, for instance, a Texans game, or even other soccer matches that have taken place at the stadium.
Like you would have in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Exactly like you would have in a Super Bowl. You have the gates, all these security agencies, different levels. It wasn't the Copa America final. That's what you're asking. This was a top operation. This is going on in every city. We knew it was going to be like this, and for the same reason, this is why fans were advised to get there early. And I know today is a little bit tricky because of weather issues. The Fan Fest, for example, the Fan Festival had to be paused because of inclement weather. And obviously, once you're in NRG.
Victor, I'm going to interrupt you. And we have breaking news about that, by the way, as we wrap up and talk about some other local aspects. The Fan Fest for tomorrow is also been canceled already because of the weather forecast. So we'll get to that note here in a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that plays into where people can or can't or are able to or not able to. But we're all adapting. Talk to us from the media point of view, Victor. You and I are blessed that we're able to go behind the scenes. International media versus national media versus local media. What was the mix that you saw up in the press area?
Yeah, a lot of media from out of town. I would say a lot of international media. I think and I may be wrong, but I think from journalists here in Houston, photographers and reporters, I don't think I might have counted more than 20.
Really? Wow.
And I think press box was full. Obviously, there's a bunch of broadcasters in the Tribune that you can see up in the stands from all forms of TV and radio all across the world. So yeah, again, we knew this was going to be this way. This is an international, it's an international game, but it's got worldwide attention. What is it? The number that's out? A billion viewers for the entire tournament or something like that. Think about that. We've seen other World Cups. The eyes of the world were on Houston today for the first match. A lot of tourists, the thing on social media is a lot of tourists have been raving, journalists and fans alike, about the stadiums in the United States. Particularly, a lot of them liked the NRG Stadium, Houston Stadium, which is funny because obviously here in Houston, the Texans, or we've been hearing reports about the Texans thinking it's a little too old, it's outdated. Are we going to get into the Super Bowl here? Obviously, they have a facility up out there by Cyprus. Do they want a new stadium? Is it going to be remodeled? And here come all the Europeans raving about how great of a stadium it is. It's amazing. It's amazing the reviews and just maybe the different appreciation from somebody that has just a different lens on things. Obviously, the pitch immaculate, by the way, too.
Yeah, in really good shape. Victor, you mentioned, and I know I'm going to get it wrong, the influencer who's come from Germany, JJ Watt put him up in a suite. Give me that name again.
Yeah, I believe it was Freddie,
Freddie.
if
Okay,
if I'm not
so
wrong.
yes, Freddie, and I was catching some
And not just
comments.
JJ Watt, he's been getting perks everywhere. I think even like the sign in Louisiana
Wow,
had like they taped something to the sign where it was like a World Cup and
I'm
it
in the
says
wrong
like
business.
hello Freddie or
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah.
well,
I need to be more of an influencer. But my point was this: I
there
was
you go.
following some of his comments. Yeah, good luck with that, Alex. I was following some of his comments, Victor, and he went from "Man, it's hot outside," which literally was. People are not used to the tropical weather in Houston. I think that shocks a lot of people. And then, wow. I'm inside, beautiful stadium,
I'm
and
freezing.
now I'm cold. Exactly. So you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt, let's say, walking to the stadium, which regardless, you're going to have to walk in this weather. Then you get a downpour, a little tropical rain. Then you go inside and you're freezing. It takes some adapting to live in these conditions. And we know the reality, Victor. If this were summer and if you were playing at Shell, the World Cup would not play at Shell. That would not be possible, in my opinion. You and I have talked
They
about
would
this.
have played it. They would have just been extending it for like 5 hours until the thunder stopped.
Right, number one, and like 38 hydration breaks, and we're going to talk about the hydration breaks here in a little bit. But Victor, obviously a historic day in Houston. I saw a lot of smiles from people, positive comments from everyone that we collaborate with. I don't think there's something to criticize beyond the obvious. How do you move 60, 70,000 people safely? And a lot of this is for our own protection, Victor. And I know people will be upset about the parking, the pricing, the timing of getting into the stadium. But we live in a day and time where we've got to take care of these things, and it's like getting on an airplane these days, Victor. You have to be part of that process. Overall, a positive experience, I think, for most. How did you see it? If you're giving it a rating or a grade for everything from the logistics point of view, the security point of view, the product on the field, the entire attention given by FIFA. This is not easy to put together, Victor. And I also want to thank a lot of the volunteers, the people behind the scenes. Our good friend Zach, Victor, is working behind the scenes and coordinating people's egos and media. It's not an easy gig.
By the way, shout out, happy birthday to Zach Emmons,
Happy
who
birthday, amigo.
celebrated
Yeah.
with working a World Cup. How about that?
That's a nice birthday
I
present,
believe
right?
also of German descent. So there you go. Absolutely. There's been a lot of good birthday presents coming here in Houston.
That's a good one.
I will tell you, I'll give it a B. I think, obviously you need some of the security measures. In an event of this magnitude, you're always going to get. Well, I'll get to that. Obviously Kirby was closed off or basically from one entrance to the other. Here's the but. I think, and we've talked about it, probably complained about it as Houstonians. Maybe just the transportation part of it. Because Kirby was closed off, and I think people were sort of directed in different directions, and I think that caused a little bit of traffic. At least I ran to some of it, and some drivers getting flustered. This was like about 8 a.m, so I can only imagine the people trying to get there for game time.
Sure.
So I think those kind of logistics. I think they'll get it better once some of these games roll on. Right, this is obviously the first World Cup game. Maybe the Europeans or the tourists from anywhere else in the world, they might be more used to public transportation. And we've always known that Metro Rail line out of the NRG Stadium is it's kind of a one-way traffic, right? When the Houston Rodeo is there, people can still mingle around the grounds, right? Go to the carnival, that kind of stuff, and stick around while like half the people from the concert leave. But in this case, when everybody's trying to get out at once, we saw some videos out there from people trying to get out, and I think it was a bit like cattle and sardines. But again, that's hopefully the things that people, Houston could better the public transportation side of it and get people out of there faster. For that reason, also, I think that's why the hospitality tickets allowed you to stay and enjoy some of those perks about an hour, so you can kind of, not have to be stuck in all this. But that's probably the only thing I would say, and only because I think we had at least 4 years, if not more, to
To prepare.
prepare for
Yeah.
all this stuff. And we didn't really do much. I mean, I'm welcome to be proven wrong, but I don't know if we've added any more, metro rail trains, or
Yeah.
could we have done more with separate buses? Was the Uber, that kind of stuff, as smooth as it could be? All that stuff, I think, is
Victor,
just maybe things we could have gotten better.
every city I think is unique in their charm, right? In their personality. I'm going to use that word. Is it applicable here? I hope I'm making a valid point here. For many of us that have visited other cities, there's many cities that are very walkable cities, right? Which obviously New York City, even though New York, New Jersey,
Right.
it's not like being in Manhattan, right? But the even the transportation system, even the weather makes things a little bit maybe more manageable. If you're not prepared for this in Houston, and the distances, similar to Dallas, you see the difference between being in Arlington and Frisco.
Yeah.
That's a 45-minute drive without traffic. So these are longer distances than being entrenched, let's say, in Rome or in Paris. Of course, there are suburbs and there's cities outside, but when you're trying to take it all in that sense, it's different. But that difference, Victor, has its charm. That you can go see a Walmart that has 1,000 parking spots, and I mention that only because that's the charm of getting to know other cities and other cultures and experiencing what we have here. Yes, is it a perfect scenario? No. Are there downsides to hosting an event in Houston in the summer? Absolutely. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. I think it's about education. You said it earlier, Victor. This is the first one. 6 to go. I think we're all, including our coverage here on the Portes Nation, we're all going to get better about these things. And that's also has its charm. I also see a cycle here, Victor, of different media coming in at different times. Obviously, let's say the German media are going to follow their team, right? That's another logistic. You mentioned Zach, and Zach does a great job. FIFA have a lot on their plate, Victor, from the responsibility of taking care of people, of having secure and accessible locations, and also moving 60, 70, 80,000 people. None of that is easy. So I think reality tells us that it's not going to be perfect. And we all have to adapt accordingly. I guess my last one, Victor, before we kind of move on a little bit, is from a media coverage point of view, I think Houston looks good. I think this is another, for those that didn't know Houston as an international destination, I think this reinforced it in the eyes of the world. A beautiful pitch, an exciting match, David versus Goliath. And again, when that match was tied 1-1, Victor, I think the world stopped and focused on, wow, could this be? Might this happen? Could this be the upset of upsets? It didn't turn out that way, but I think Houston, Curaçao, Germany, mission accomplished. Is that fair?
Mission accomplished for sure, at least for the first game. And it certainly gives a lot of perspective as well. The way they do the media tribunes, the way I'll tell you something I learned today. I didn't know those windows in the press box at NRG Stadium could be lifted open a little bit.
Wow. We
Obviously
do
when you
need better
cover,
elevators in there, don't we, though, Victor?
maybe a couple more wouldn't hurt. But listen, again, just because I think in other countries you're used to getting some of that atmosphere, raw atmosphere, right? Instead of just kind of, when you go to a Texans game, or even soccer matches at NRG, usually those windows are closed. You don't get to hear. You hear it through the windows, but it's a different. It's a different noise. It's almost like you're in a separate world away from that, right?
A separation, literally.
Those
a
little
separation.
things.
Yeah.
Those little things, the way the press conference room was set up, the way they did the mix zone in a different area of the stadium than where it normally is. Just again, gives you a different. It's almost like what I said about the Estadio Azteca the other day. I mean, it just kind of, you purpose something a different way, and it just gives it a whole new look to something that you ordinarily use. Um, yeah. Other than that, obviously, again, go back to it being a historic day. And I mean, again, high profile team in Germany. We're gonna Cristiano Ronaldo here with Portugal for 2 games, so that's gonna be and bring even more media attention from different parts of the world. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, Houston's right there, and oh, here's another thing. You're talking about media coverage. I think locally too. We've talked about this. I think it is a bit of an eye opener. Hopefully, it is. Hopefully, it's proving that. I mean, this sport is everything we've always said it is. I saw the Houston Chronicle put up an article, something about Houston's always been a soccer city, and now it's just proving it, right? And this is based off just a couple of days of the fan festival, and obviously now, um, actually, I think this was actually before the World Cup match. So now, with the World Cup match added to it, and I think the other matches that we have, yeah, absolutely, it's been a soccer city. We all know it, and I mean, there's so much that could happen here with this sport. Um, that doesn't happen with any of the other sports. We'll see. I still think the NFL is trying to tap into some of that international culture.
Sure.
That's what they're trying to
Oh yeah.
go out of the country and get as many of these games as possible. The NBA has tried to do some of that. I don't know if with the same
Success. Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Obviously, Major League Baseball has the international series now. So, um, listen, I think they kind of feel it on their heels. That soccer is here to stay in the United States at least, and that's kind of the final frontier. Because everywhere else in the world, it's basically the primary sport.
Absolutely, and let's see what happens in Houston. You were speaking earlier, Victor, about the the coverage, the media coverage. And forgive me, let's see if we get some technical snafus worked out. I hope we can. Well, it's disappeared, Victor. So we'll figure it out here shortly. But talk to us a little bit more about the local coverage versus not. I know Fox 26 were out there, and that's a big part of being a rights holder, right? That you're able to have that.
Yeah, and I wonder if that played into why some of the other stations weren't there. Now I heard some of them weren't granted access. I don't know what FIFA bases that on, or just if that's just an oversight, and maybe they'll be at some of the other games. And I could be wrong, but I mean that's at least from what I noticed. It's certainly the two right holders, Telemundo and Fox, the local stations had a big presence down there in terms of coverage, reporters, that kind of stuff. Um, so I will. I mean, I still have to kind of look at some of the programming from tonight. I'm eager to kind of see how they covered it, but obviously, just based on social media, I saw Channel 11 kind of covering it from afar. The traffic going into the stadium, again the Metro Rail stuff, but not much from there. Same with these other stations, and but again, I think for the last couple of days, if it's even not that, they're down at the bars, they're down at the fan festival. They've been covering the attention all this is getting. I go back to it. I wonder if it's gonna evolve into something more for these stations, or if it's just a 1 month thing.
I think we're all trying to figure that out, Victor. And how do you build upon the success that's already here, the matches yet to be played? I did want to mention, Victor, here that we were talking about tomorrow, and soon we'll have a slide with tomorrow's matches. But tomorrow the Fan Fest is been canceled because of the weather. I think this is happening in several cities: Kansas City, Atlanta, I think even Toronto, right?
Yeah,
Have had
Toronto had
issues
a
with weather.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what happens when you put something outdoors, and um, well, I mean it kind of is what it sucks a little bit because Brian McBride was going to be one of the special guests here in town. Um, I don't know if he's going to stick around a little longer, and they're going to put him on Tuesday, or if that's pretty much canceled. But um, listen, again, that's opportunity for some of these bars, and not just the ones down there, right? I think, and maybe that's the part where we haven't really heard story around town, around some of these cities, the other environments, right? Not everybody's going to come into town, driving half an hour from the Woodlands or from Pearland or from out in Galveston
Katie.
or wherever. Yeah, Katie. There you go. So I think there are different environments, and I just, we haven't heard much of those.
No, no, and Victor, I wanted to allude earlier. We were talking about Fox 26 and their coverage earlier this morning. I was on with Nate Griffin, Carolina, and Anthony. We're also having a live presentation. It certainly helps to be
Yeah.
part of the rights holders. They've been doing a great job in coverage, not only because you get to see Alex Parra. By the way, look at me in the morning and look at me now. What a change! But their coverage has been consistent as right holders, has been great, I think, in many ways. I think one of the debates you and I have is English or Spanish. How is Telemundo doing versus Fox locally and in the broadcast? Look, this is a marathon, Victor, and we've talked about this. We've still got weeks to go, and there's a lot. Often you repeat yourself in many ways, but often you're finding and breaking new ground. Finding those fans that make it exciting and interesting, and telling those stories.
Yeah, I will say they had Telemundo on the TVs in the press box. So I don't know if that means FIFA prefers Telemundo, or they think it's a better. But listen, hey, I had no say in it. It was already there once
You couldn't get your
I,
remote and
I
change
didn't
it?
influence. No, I didn't switch the channel. So, um,
That's
but I mean, listen, a lot of it has to do with distribution. I
sure.
would imagine there's probably some markets where, you know, you get a Fox station and you probably don't get Telemundo, or it's a lower power station. And so I don't know how much of that factors into it. The point is that people are watching these games, right? The US game got what, like 25 million between both channels.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think was the number that was floated out there. So, and people were saying that's more than the NBA Finals, or the NBA Finals game, at least the most recent one up till then. Obviously, way above what the Stanley Cup final game was getting up to that point. So, but again, to us, it's no surprise. I mean, this is the popularity of the sport. I think more and more people play it now, know about it. I mean, even for something like the United States, and I know, it might sound crazy, but um, it's kind of hard to a lot of times to find fellow U.S. fans, right? And I think this time certainly you see a lot more U.S. jerseys, and you'll probably see more and more as this kind of continues. Um, that's where, again, it's what the national team is doing. It's what this World Cup is doing. It's the general knowledge of the game. A lot of people might not, it might not be their favorite sport, but they have kids who play soccer, and that's their link to the game. A lot of people grew up with it, like you and me. There's different connections of the game for everybody, and I think that, I mean, you just see it, that soccer has so much tentacles all around the world. It's almost unmatched in my mind.
It is unmatched, and it's entertainment. We're taking a look at some of the images from the official Houston Fan Fest in Edo, close to Shell Energy Stadium, for a couple of reasons. You're talking about that diversity. You're talking about the experience. And by the way, we mentioned this earlier in the broadcast. Just this evening, the FIFA World Cup 2026 Houston Host Committee sent out a press release stating that due to anticipated inclement weather conditions and the guidance of public safety officials, FIFA Fan Festival Houston will be closed on Monday, June 15th. So we're almost to June 15th. We're just a few minutes away, by the way. But this is to ensure people's safety.
That's the first time I've seen Canetti kick a soccer ball, by the way.
Yeah, you saw Chris Canetti kick it. By the way, his daughters play, at least two of them, or one of them for sure, very good players here at the high school level, and I think they've gone on to the college level. But you saw Mr. Chris Canetti there. Can you imagine, Victor, the pressure of someone like Mr. Chris Canetti, Patty Smith, who runs the fan festival, Carla Gomez, who is the press officer? I mean, they are working 24/7. We complain that we're up early and staying up late to do our recap, but they're under pressure from everybody, Victor. One thing goes wrong, like the weather, and you've got to be ready. So it can be a stressful time for many of the leaders, and also coordinating all of these things. It's not easy. Look, it's easy to criticize, and everyone does it. In social media, you can be a keyboard warrior, but actually being there in the trenches and doing it is not easy. There he is kicking again, by the way.
Yeah, well, if I'm assuming he's getting a handsome paycheck, so I think that makes it less stressful. But look, obviously, and FIFA has a lot of say in this stuff too, right?
Sure.
I think yeah, credit due to for the organizers and putting all this together. Again, I'm always gonna wish for more, and I just would like more of a recognition for everybody as well, because I think I don't want the narrative to be, you know, if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have a World Cup, because I think that's the wrong narrative that maybe gets played overplayed. I think the support of soccer in this city for years and years is what brought the World Cup. I think certainly you give credit; they played a part. They got to
Sure.
be those that were privileged to be in these positions. Let's be honest. But, well, I'll give it. That's my take. Um, and listen, again, I hope this doesn't just stop here. I hope this isn't the end of the road. I hope this puts a different, a rocket next to the sport, right, and kind of takes it to the moon in Houston, Texas. Because I think again we're seeing it. People are starting to realize a little bit more. But I hope it doesn't just get abandoned 3 weeks from now. I hope it really soccer really gets the attention it deserves.
I think we are building toward that, Victor. And look, one of the criticisms, and we've got to wrap up here shortly, Victor, but one of the criticisms, well, one of the conversations you and I have had is that we know there's a rich soccer history, pre-MLS, pre-NWSL, going back to the NASL and even further back. I think the problem has been that we as a soccer community have not touted that, have not talked about that, have not been organized about that. And yes, when the World Cup comes, it takes organization and it takes people from different viewpoints with different skill sets to bring us together, Victor, because that previously did not happen. And we'll have this debate and this conversation, but I think in general terms, we're headed in the right direction. Victor, our producer tells us we've got to wrap up here shortly. Let's talk about mañana, Monday the 15th, 4 more matches, and it
Yeah.
starts earlier tomorrow. Let me look at my schedule here, Victor. It starts at 11 a.m. Spain versus Cape Verde or Cabo Verde, depending on how you want to say it, in Atlanta.
Yeah, and obviously, big spotlight on that one because Spain's considered one of the favorites, one of the young stars in world soccer in Lamine Yamal. Belgium probably going to be another one that's going to draw eyeballs. Uruguay with Marcelo Bielsa, and we'll see how they come out in their first game. So again, we're starting to get more of the heavyweights that we're expecting to be. Um, Score a lot of goals and be protagonists in this World Cup. And I think it's going to give us a clearer picture of where this is all heading.
We mentioned 11 a.m. Atlanta, Spain, España versus Cabo Verde, Cape Verde, Belgium, Egypt at 2 in Seattle out in the West Coast. Then we go to Miami for the Saudi Arabia-Uruguay match. And then an interesting political match, even though I'm hearing in the last 24 hours that a deal
Yeah.
to stop the war with Iran is imminent and should be signed as early
Okay.
as this week. So we'll see Iran participating for the first time, taking on New Zealand in LA. That's the late match in Group G at 8 p.m. tomorrow, Monday the 15th. So that's giving you a little bit of an overview. Victor, we've got to go, but today I think a great day
Let's do it.
for Houston soccer. But I'll give you the final word, sir, on what we lift today, and 6 more matches to go here in Houston.
6 more matches. I think certainly they're all going to have their own flavor. But again, I don't want to pressure anybody to going. But I think if you're on the fence, and it means, and if you're able to do it, um,
Financially, you mean, or otherwise, or both?
no, yeah. Don't go into depth that you can't handle. But I think
Just the normal
it's
debt.
also one of
The
these.
normal debt.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, let's. Hey, listen, everybody's an adult and free to choose what they do with their own money or
I
borrow
agree.
however they want.
I agree.
I just think it is for a lot of people you're starting to see it. It's almost in a lifetime thing, and I think all the negativity that we saw pre-tournament, you're not hearing a lot of that now because you're seeing the joy that this tournament brings to people, what it brings to the world. From what you mentioned, apparently it's bringing peace. So that could be the impact. Um, and yeah, I think some of these games have been tremendous. These fan bases, by the way, and I'll give a shout out because we didn't really get to go into that Dallas game, but the Netherlands, obviously, we knew what they were bringing, but I think Japan also. I mean that just added to the flavor of that game. That ended up being a 2-2. And I think we're going to have more games like that for the same reason. I mean, Ecuador, I mean, the sight of all yellow
In
in the Eagles
Philadelphia,
Stadium
yeah.
up in Philadelphia. I mean, and you're and a lot of these people are people that live in our country already, and they have that passion for the sport and they want to be in the building because that's how much it means to them. It will be no different if this tournament was held at the end of the world. People would find a way to make it there, hell or high water.
It's just the beginning, Victor, and we're just getting started. Not only in following and having that energy and emotion, and certainly with our coverage here on Deportes Nation Soccer Texas. Victor, it's always great to be with you. A long day, go get some rest, friends. We've got to go. We appreciate you being with us as we close out the first weekend of this 2026 FIFA World Cup. So on behalf of our production staff, on behalf of Victor Araiza, I'm Alex Parra. Please take care of yourselves until tomorrow when we meet again here late at night on Deportes Nation. Have a great evening. Have a great start to your week. Good night.